Joshua! Wow! Joshua! In an unbelievable round
I am the greatest.
Roshan, I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
It's showtime!
Welcome back to the VAVEL podcast. It's me, your host, George Priestman. I'm joined today by David Cooke, and we'll be looking at the UK fight and the UK scene with the Matchroom card at Wembley Arena this weekend, headlined by David Avanesyan versus Josh Kelly. It's a great weekend for boxing. It's the start of a big spell for UK boxing, and we've got a great headline fight and a couple of very good fighters on the undercard as well. So definitely one to watch out for and to get involved with. And we'll jump in with the big fight, headline fight, a fight that should have happened in 2018, but here we are in 2021 and it's finally happening. Just straight up, first question: how good a fight is this? And is it a fight that now it's happening in 2021? Perhaps does it favour Josh Kelly now than it would have done in 2018?
I think it's a great fight for Josh Kelly. It was a shame in 2018 when it didn't come together. But as you just said there, I think it may have come at a time better for Josh now. I think he'd be more mature. And for me, these are the fights that he's got to be having now, because although he's only 26, the next few years of his career, he needs to start stepping up the levels and showing that he could be a world-class contender. I think this is a perfect fight for him. Saying that, though, it's going to be a very tough one. But I think timing, it could be right for Josh Kelly. 2021 could be a big year for him.
Yeah, I think timing could be key there. I mean, 2018, 3 years ago, I mean, the fights he has had, Josh Kelly, in that time, he drew in America with Ray Robinson, and that was a step up that he made then. Wasn't quite ready for it then because it was a draw, but it was one where he was found out a little bit, and if he'd taken on Avanesyan, then maybe he might have got might have got blown out of there because the way that Avanesyan fights is such a pressure fight, and that might have been the wrong time for him. Flash forward 3 years later, I mean, Avanesyan's still a brilliant fighter, and he's someone who's a very, very good fighter and had some good wins in his European holder and is looking to get to that world level. And it's a good fight because you've got these two fighters who are you've got one who's supremely skilled and supremely talented against someone who loves relentless pressure and can pick shots really well and is experienced and has got a great chin. So what you've got is a fight that almost a 50-50 fight, really. I mean, I don't know how you see favourites, but I'd probably go straight down the middle and call it a 50-50 fight.
For me, I think Kelly's got enough. I think he'll get the job done. Even though they've both been out for 12 months. Avanesyan's obviously a great fighter. He's only lost twice. Well, he's lost early in his career, lost 3 times, but his 2 recent losses against Kavaluskias, who's only ever lost to Terence Crawford, and then Lamont Pearson years ago, who used to be a top contender, 2-weight world champion. So it's not going to be an easy fight for Josh whatsoever, but I just think he could be world class. I think he's got that potential. People get criticising him for maybe blowing hot and cold and prioritising flair and stuff like that. But for me, that's just what makes him dangerous. And I think he really could go all the way to the top. I really do.
Yeah, he's got them skills. He's good looking. He's that type that people just sort of look at that and think, yeah, he's not going to be a top fighter, but he's got all the makings. I mean, the skills he shows in the fights, the head movement, the letting his guard down and then letting them come onto him. It's sort of skills, beyond his years almost, and maturity of his years. And it's when a fighter has that sort of that magical Prince Nassim sort of flair and stuff, because you don't see it very often. How many fighters can you count on one hand? How many fighters right now who can fight like that? Not many at all. So when you do see one, you want to see him have that substance as well. Can he do the 12 hard rounds in a big fight like this? Can he, if it goes to a war, can he get stuck in? I haven't really seen that yet, but obviously the level of opposition I don't think really has been there yet to show that. Apart from the Ray Robinson fight, which obviously came out with the draw, but like I said, the skills are insane, and he's just great to watch fight. And you get someone who's a really good fighter like Avanesyan, then it can push him, and you can get the best out of Josh Kelly. And I think we will see that on Saturday because he's in magnificent shape as well. But if we're talking about the fight itself, a couple of questions about it. Does Kelly have the power to keep him off all night?
I think he can. I think that he's going to be raring to go. I think people sleep on Kelly's power quite a lot, to be honest, because he throws like quite a lot of volume of shots, different types of shots. But I think he has got power in his hands, and I think he'll be able to do it. And I think that Avanesyan's going to chase him round and put the pressure on him. But I think Kelly is tailor-made sort of okay to move around and keep on beating the shots, dodging everything. And I think with his power, I think he has got it. And I think he will keep him off, to be honest. But I do see it going 12 rounds, saying that, though. I think he can earn his respect. That's the most important thing. If he earns his respect, I think it could be a good night work for Josh Kelly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, really. If he doesn't keep him off, is he in danger because he's just going to come at him all night?
And I think because his movement's so good, though, as well, he can also escape it that way. It could be one thing with pressure, but if you've got the movement to keep on getting out of the way of shots, then it's a different thing. But I think it'll be a combination of both. I think Kelly's a great mover, and I think he will earn his respect, not just because of the power, because of the selection of his shots. Sometimes he throws ridiculous shots sometimes, and the ones that you don't see often hurt you and often catch you off guard, and that's what Avanesyan's going to have to look out for.
Agreed, definitely. As someone, we saw what happened last week when people look ahead, but we can look ahead for Josh Kelly. If he does win this fight, what avenues does that open up? Because is it straight into a Conor Benn fight? But if I was him, would you be looking at, because he would have won the European title, looking for that next step? So maybe a former world title challenger, someone who's been right up there, would be the next sort of step.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the very lucky Matchroom that they've got Conor Benn and Josh Kelly, because their career paths on the same trajectory at the minute, and it almost sets up in a year, maybe 2 years' time. You could see it. You could see it in the next fight. You don't know, but I think the trajectory is going the same direction for like a very special night over here, a big fight between them two brilliant British prospects. But yeah, I think it's just levels now. As I said, the next few years, even though he has time on his side at 26, it's about stepping up them levels. And it's just every fight improving and moving up the ladder. And I think that's what he's aiming to do, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, collision course right there. I mean, that's two fighters you'd love to see take on each other with for a world title would be the dream. But if it isn't, then you're looking at final world eliminator, probably that sort of level. I won't want to see them go together now because I feel like they've got a little bit of way to go, and I think they can do damage around that top 15 and then slowly get to that. Yeah. But obviously, two great fighters and a big fight. The headline and would have sold out, the O2 or wherever they would have fought originally. But on the undercard, obviously we have, I won't say an even better fight, but I think Florian Marku versus Ryland Charlton is just, it's tailor-made for war and entertainment. If that fight's a boring fight, then we should just give up with boxing, because I cannot see how this fight will not take off.
I know it's probably one I'm looking forward to the most, to be honest, only because it's a weird one. Marku's come as this prospect of MMA background. He's blown through everyone, and then his last fight on the Joshua card, even though he complained and said he was outraged, I understood that maybe he did win the fight or whatever, but he wasn't that impressive, and I think people are hyping him up to be someone that can go on to box at the high level. He's been calling out people like Conor Benn recently. And it's a weird one because James Stewart on the night, I thought, did a decent job and boxed well. And I think the problem with him is he's a bit square at the minute, maybe from that MMA stance. And he was easy to hit at times. And then you've got Ryland Charlton coming up, who I think against Joe Laws was it was his first big test, Joe Laws. He's a big arena fighter, isn't he? He gets out the crowd. Newcastle with Ritson, and then Charlton was sort of like an unknown, unfancied fighter coming into that, and he stole the show for me. And now he's got a real chance here. If he can probably upset Marku, that it could be brilliant for his career. It could be a real step forward. And I think it's a win-win for Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, because whoever wins this fight, Marku will take the step forward and will be looking to go higher, and he's got a little prospect there. But if Charlton can beat him, then wow, there's another young British star.
I mean, they've both got identical records, with Marku having one extra win than Charlton, but he's such a measured fighter, and they're like opposite sort of personalities. Like watching the build up this week, Florian Marku's like all serious, all action, staring him out in the breakfast room and that, and Charlton sort of just said like morning to him, and he's got nothing back. And I think he said something. He said morning to Marku, and Marku's gone not morning, and he's like, I'm pretty sure it is morning. It's 9 o'clock. He's just so serious, and Charlton's just this really laid back guy, super likable. Like I didn't know who he was until he knocked out, in his big fight last time. But looking at all the interviews, he's just so relaxed, and you just want to get behind him. And obviously, he can fight as well. He loves to fight, and these two just love to fight. And like I said with Marku, I think he does get hit a little bit too often with that square stance. And the hype train has just sort of come from the Ultimate Boxer, wasn't it? Where he sort of blew a couple of people out of the water. I don't know if he thought, I was thinking about this today, I don't know if he thought that was maybe a bigger tournament than it was. I don't really know, because he sort of he won that and then he was suddenly calling out everyone, and I thought, well, it's not really that sort of level tournament to be calling out people. So maybe he didn't really understand maybe he overestimated how big that tournament was for him. But obviously they're both so aggressive, and I think Marku's he's got a point to prove after that draw as well. And this time it's a level playing field. It's a really game fighter in front of him, and I think it's just going to take off. I really do. It's a real calm before the storm element as well, because obviously there's not been that sort of beef or anything like that. I feel like it's just once Charlton gets in the ring, he's all business. Same with Marku, and I can't see anything other than just a huge fight. Do you know what I mean? A dust up, a real dust up. And I mean, if I had to push you for one guy to win, who are you going for? I know I'm rooting for, but
yeah, I am rooting for Charlton. Obviously, being the British lad, you get behind the British lads, but we've only seen that fight from Lawson. Even though I was very impressed, he just got in there and done the business. And I think that'll be the attitude that he'll have this time. It's really tight. I'd maybe say Marku's slight favourite, just from even just fighting a little bit of a higher level, even with the Ultimate Boxer tournament, and maybe having a bit more experience in that sort of like the bigger fights. But I hope that Charlton can get the job done, because I think that if he gets through this thing, there's a real chance that it could be a decent British star. Because as you said, he's so likable. He just seems like a really good lad, and he can obviously fight as well. So
I think for either of them,
favourite, but I'd like Charlton to win.
Yeah, I think for either of them, if they lose, I don't think it's that big an issue, because it's so early on in the career. We've only just, like you said, we've only just heard of Charlton, in like the last 6 months. So you know what I mean? It's not a big deal for them. For me, so it's not a big deal for them to lose. But I think it's a great fight for both of them to step up. And yeah, whoever goes on, I'm sure they'll both still go on to be in big fights, because Marku is obviously quite a decent name to have, with the way he is, and he's a good one to have on cards either way. So I'm sure he'll always feature. And Charlton, I just hope, I'm backing him. I love him. He's in a few interviews, he's just charming. You know what I mean? I can't get behind him anymore. So love him to get the job done. And big feature for both of them. Right? You will not. Doesn't matter who wins or loses really for their careers. You're going to see a lot of them, and that's good for boxing fans. But on the card as well, obviously Robbie Davis Jr. is back, and Gordon Gill are both fighting unknown Mexicans, which, as you know from last week, you just need to stick your head in the game, because you don't know what these guys can do. And like I said, Robbie Davis Jr. is fighting someone who's very similar record to him, decent amount of knockouts as well, and it's a fight for a title. I mean, it's an IBF Intercontinental title, whatever that means. You know what I mean? There's so many belts. I mean, but obviously it's a chance for him to get back on the horse really after the whole Lewis Ritson fight and everything that went down there. You can move on now. You can try and build him back up now. He's still a very good fighter, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I do rate him. I think he's a top fighter. I think that this fight is more not about the title. It's about just getting back into the top 15 in one of the confederations, but IBF in this thing. But that's the most important thing. He needs to stay in the top 15 to have the fights at the level he should be fighting, to get the good matchups, because I really do rate him a high level. 31 now, so he's still got time, but it's ticking on a bit. That's why it's so important he stays in the top 15 at the minute, just to keep himself amongst it all, really. And I think that his opponent, you look after last week, you can't really say much about record. Hasn't really fought out with Mexico and stuff, but it's a weird one, and these Mexicans are always going to come over. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be inspired after what happened last weekend, and so I expect it to be a tough fight, to be honest.
You definitely can't overlook it. That's for certain. I mean, you just got to get in there and do the business. You can't think over him. You can't think past him. Just don't want a banana skin. You really don't. You've seen what damage you can do to someone, and they'll be very wary not to go that. But like you said, the Mexicans will be motivated. Of course they will be. They've seen someone go there and do it. And if you told me last week that Josh Rollins would have lost like that, I'd have laughed you out of the room. Do you know what I mean? As many boxing experts would have. So obviously we've got Jordan Gill fighting as well. What do you think of Jordan Gill as a fighter? Obviously another talented fighter on the Matchroom card. Only lost once, and 26 years old. He's got a lot of experience on his belt already with 25 wins and only one loss. He's a talent, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I was just about to, as you can ask that question, I was going to say, to be 26 and 25 fights, I think 25 wins, one loss. It's a lot of experience for a 26-year-old. And I think good boxing skills, experience. I think his loss was actually against a Mexican, Tinoco. That was when he was defeated, and he knows it's going to be a tough, grueling fight. And I think this might be a good fight for him for, again, just more ring experience to be involved with these tough guys and to battle with him. I think it just adds to his portfolio almost, of being able to go for a grueler. I think that's the type of fight it will be. And I think Jordan Hill's got to be clever in this one because, again, it sounds like we're some Mexican fanboys now, but after last weekend, you don't know all these hungry Mexican fighters who want to come over.
19 knockouts. He's got 19 knockouts. Exactly. He's coming over here. Dangerous. You know what I mean? You're knocking Mexicans out in Mexico. You've got to have a little bit about you to do it. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I think he's slightly older. He's about 29. This lad, whereas 29, the lad fighting Dave is 26. So he's probably got a bit more experience as well, as being raw. But as you said, 19 knockouts is. It doesn't matter who you're knocking out. You're still doing it, aren't you?
Yeah. It's not to turn your nose up at, but I mean. Yeah, Jordan Gill. When he lost when he was fighting for the vacant. He's fighting for his WBA International Feather title, and he is fighting for that title again. It's vacant this time, so he'll be looking to get that belt back under his arm and move on. And you look at that division on BoxRec here. Look at the rankings. He's number 9 in England in the weight, but if you look at above him, you've got people like there's a lot of great fights to be made there, like Isaac Lowe, Gavin McDonald, Ryan Walsh, Lee Wood, Jazza Dickens, and then Isaac Dogbo, and then you've got obviously the standout 2, Warrington and Kid Galahad. So, you'd think he'd be looking to move up that list, sometime soon, like a Ryan Walsh, Lee Wood, those type of fighters, depending on, what fights can be made. A lot of them under the Matchroom banner as well. So you'd like to see him in a couple of domestic dust-ups next, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. I think he's got that. He's at the European pedigree now, isn't he? But it might not be the right time yet to start pushing on further. So then, as you said, he's ranked 9, and that just shows if he's ranked 9, that how stacked that division is. Because I really highly rate him. So for him to be 9th in that, it shows how strong domestically the division is. And yeah, I think for me, a few domestic fights again, just to add to his portfolio again of coming through these grueling fights and just having. You've got to have a big British dust up on your resume, haven't you? And it'd be good to see him add some of them on.
Yeah, you can't be taken seriously about one of the domestic dust ups on your resume, and the fans love you for it as well. And you get big, you get so much hype from it as well. It's only good for you if you go in and win that. The opportunities that you get from that, it's endless. So yeah, love to see him in those fights. It's a great division, really is. A lot of great fights in that division coming up as well. Obviously with Kid Galahad and Jazza Dickens. But last on the card, I mean. We love a heavyweight debut because we love heavyweights. we love big young heavyweights who hit hard. And what you've got in with the Romford Bull coming in is a guy who's limited amateur experience, very limited. 4 fights, maybe 5 fights. Used to be a rugby player, university educated. But look at the size of the man. I mean, I'm curious to see what he's got. Obviously, we're going to see a very raw talent in the ring. But for Johnny Fisher, it's he's on a big Matchroom card for his debut. He's got the whole world watching. He's had he's had Tyson Fury giving him the video good luck. He's sparred with Joyce, Hughie Fury, all the best British heavyweights. I'm just excited to see what he's got. I don't know anything about him apart from what's been reported, but we'll have to see if he can fight or not.
Yeah, I think that he's a great nickname as well, by the way, the Romford Bull. Love that.
Great nickname.
And as you said, just limited as an amateur, and sometimes it can be dangerous to do that. But he has been sparring and training with out in LA with Joe Joyce, and he's been sparring with a lot of top heavyweights, so that experience will be invaluable to him. And I think it's going to be like a learning on the job experience for him, isn't it? Really, getting in there. But he's a big lad. All the heavyweights can punch, but he's obviously got something about him boxing wise as well to be able to just make the pro stepper. And it's a fight that he should probably win. Like Gordon, who his opponent is, his last 3 fights have been against lads who've made their debuts, and he's lost them. He fought David Avanesyan not long ago, I think, and was knocked out. So he's becoming a debut man, Gordon, but it might be a bit of an easier task depending on Johnny Fisher's skill, but we don't know, do we? Because we've hardly seen anything. He's just come out of nowhere.
I haven't seen him on the pads yet. So, but obviously he's a massive guy. He'll have brutally big strength. I mean, it's whether he can do all the heavyweight boxing needs to be able to do in this modern day, of moving around, being able to box and be able to bang as well. So we'll have to see. You'll see limited amount in this one fight, obviously, but it's always exciting to see a young heavyweight, and there's a good crop of them coming up, and a lot of these heavyweights are taking the route now where you just sort of bin off the amateur experience and you just turn pro and learn on the job. What do you make of that?
I think that it works in some sense. It depends on what your aspirations are, really, isn't it? It's for a lot of these young lads coming up now with Johnny Fisher. He's been university educated and stuff like that. I don't think he's had to. Maybe it's less risk for him. So it's like less risk so he can take more risks, for example. He hasn't got to worry about if he loses or anything like that. He hasn't got to put food on the table. He's always going to have that background. And I think some fighters now, I think the amateurs, unless you want to go and win an Olympic gold medal, I think a lot of them like to learn on the job and do this, because you've got people like the Dave Allen, he just sort of like threw himself into it a little bit. Obviously, he had a bit of a boxing background, decent amateur, but they just seem to
Fabio Wardley
learn on the job.
Fabio Wardley being the main one.
Exactly, yeah, another one. Yeah, they just. I mean, I think it's easier to do it the big you are as well, isn't it? It's easier for a heavyweight to do it to say than a middleweight to do it. Because I think it's an easier route, but why not? I say, especially with someone like Johnny Fisher, may as well go for it. I think.
Yeah, there's low weight. Yeah, there's low weight. You got to learn your craft a little bit more, but heavyweights you can it's more suited to the pro game, because obviously it's all about getting the knockouts and looking good like that. And obviously knockouts breed more hype, and more hype breeds bigger fights. And I suppose you can build that up quicker in the heavyweight division, better than anywhere else. And for him, you can just start getting stuck in, really. I mean, and obviously he can be managed. He could be 20-0 if he wanted to be. If he's managed well, he could fight 20, low level fighters if he wanted to build his way up like that. So he can go that way. So for him, I just couldn't imagine the excitement now of being turning pro. Do you know what I mean? From he was doing his dissertation, I don't know, a year ago or something, or two. Thinking about uni work 2 years ago. I don't think he thought in his mind he'd be on a Matchroom card 2 years later. So, he's living the dream, and good luck to him. Fair play. So just quick predictions, quickly for the cards. You've gone for Josh Kelly.
Yeah.
What sort of decision are we talking? Split decision, or is he going to?
You know, I think he can be dominant on the night. I think he's got that quality. I really do. I think it's going to be. He's got a tough opponent. Obviously, he's only lost to the best apart from early on in his career. But I think Kelly's got everything. I think to dominate that fight. I think he will. I think he's hungry. He's got something to prove. As I was saying, he's got the trajectory path with Conor Benn now as well. And Ben got that win against Formella not long ago. So I think he needs to make a statement almost as well. And I think he will.
So yeah, Josh Kelly. I'm going to go with him as well. I think it might be a bit closer than you think, though. Obviously, with the judges these days, you never know. So he'll probably end up coming away with the unanimous decision either way. but I think it could have a split decision written all over it because it's in a step up, and obviously he's not fought for a while, Josh Kelly. So I'll go a split decision win for Kelly there. We agree on Kelly. Marku Charlton. I'm going Charlton. Can he stop him? But I don't see this fight going 12 rounds. So in that case, I have to say Charlton wins by stoppage. So, yeah.
My head is saying Marku, yes, but then my heart is all for Charlton, similar to you. Hope he can get the job done.
Yeah, agreed there. It's hard to really get your owners on the line there and really say it's one. But yeah, very head and heart there for Charlton and Marku, and obviously the rest. Obviously, like to hope they come through because they're just there. They're just the fights that in their career. They just need to get through them to get to the next ones, and obviously that's dangerous to think about that. But Robbie Davis Jr. and Jordan Gill are very good fighters, and that back them to come through. Stoppage wins. I mean, maybe probably just getting the win is probably important for them, looking good and moving on. And obviously, Johnny Fisher most likely will start with a KO victory, as they all seem to do when they come through. So really good card. Can't wait to see this one live on Sky Sports. 6 o'clock start on Saturday night, and we'll be there with a crate of beers ready to rattle through the night, obviously. So looking forward to that one. We will preview the international scene after this because obviously a lot of fights this weekend. Can't do them all in one video because it's just too much to talk about. So we will draw a line under this one there. That's the domestic scene looked at, and we will look to the international scene next. So stay tuned for that.